Gentlemen, what's good? Tonight I wanted to make a video kind of basically talking about something that Rollo Tomassi came up with in his first book, which was the frame you set in the relationship in the beginning of the relationship. It says right there. You see that? The frame you set in the beginning of the relationship will establish the tone of the future of that relationship. All right, and that, can I get my image back? Here we go. Can never be underestimated. Right there, what I just showed you is tremendously important. Now, why did I bring this up? Because I've been reading through this book by Warren Farrell, The Boy Crisis. And there is something that I came across today on page 193, where it says this. It says, which is a really good idea. All right. It says, family dinner night, sex as a destiny. I don't know if I can hold this fucking mic and actually read this. Family dinner night discusses with your son about how the image of dads being deadbeats leads to laws that create greater consequences should he become an unwanted dad. Will help him put two and two together. Okay, all right. I just read that awfully, but whatever. Who cares? Family dinner night discussions with your son about how the image of dads being deadbeats leads to laws that create greater consequences should he become an unwanted dad, will help him put two and two together. Okay, so laws are basically creating deadbeat dads, right? And to a certain extent. When your son has sex with a woman, he puts his life in her hands. Okay, and that's what he's saying here. Is like when your son has sex with a woman, he puts his life in her hands. Not sure I agree with that. The good news, question mark. This can encourage him to really get to know a woman before having sex. Okay. The good news, question mark. This can encourage him to really get to know a woman before having sex, ultimately developing a much more positive appreciation of women. Since there are few more powerful forces than your teenage son's sexual desire, you'll need the most positive, persuasive approaches for your sons to use birth control rather than have a birth control him, which I agree. Okay, so let me finish that last sentence. Let me actually finish that last paragraph for you. It says, the good news, question mark. This can encourage him to really get to know a woman before having sex. I want to touch on that. This can really encourage him to get to know a woman before having sex. And I have to say that based on my personal experience, based on what Rollo Tomassi says on the first impression, that's going to be that's not going to work for us here. And I understand the sentiment. But ultimately developing a much more positive appreciation of women, which will ultimately lead to developing a much more positive appreciation of women. And he's saying is if we get to know women before we have sex with them, we'll appreciate them more. Well, maybe, but it's not going to lead to an appreciation of women having an appreciation to us more. And I'll touch on that. Since there are few more powerful forces than your teenage son's sexual desire. Okay, but also the only other force that might be even more powerful is a young woman's sexual desire. Okay, we forget that. We forget that. Okay, you'll need the most persuasive approaches for your son to use birth control rather than have a birth control him. Okay, and that's page 193 of The Boy Crisis. I've been reading through it. Really well documented book. Fantastic job by Warren Farrell. I think I may order a couple more of his books that that he wrote in the past. But what do I need? Why am I bringing this up? Okay, and let me bring this back up from Rollo Tomassi in his first book here. Okay, look, it'll come up in frame. Ironically, the frame you set in a relationship, the frame you set in the beginning of the relationship will establish the tone of the future of that relationship. Okay. What does that mean? Well, let's see if I can get this focused. Good, got it focused. Nice, my camera's working really well tonight. What does that mean? The frame you establish early on, and I know this from personal experience, is it has to be, you can't just get to know a woman and then have sex with her. You have to establish a good quality sexual fun experience with a woman, and then the relationship gets developed afterwards. I know this from personal experience. This is how my marriage is a successful marriage. Okay, and this is I recorded this video late night because I've been studying all night, and I'm using this as a way of just kind of sort of winding down to go to bed. But I really enjoy doing these videos, and this is like a hobby for me. Like, this is like if you were sitting down playing video games or watching Netflix or whatever it is you do, whack off the porn, making these videos for me is exactly that for me. I love to be able to decompress by giving you the shit I've been thinking about all day, or at least in the last recent hours of my life. And this is one of the things I've been thinking about all day is, after I read that from Warren Farrell, he's like, you should get to know a woman before you have sex with her. Well, I think that's a problem, because what that's going to end up establishing is you're not going to be, you have to understand what the two sides of a female hypergamy, right, is alpha fucks, or alpha, I already said it, alpha fucks, beta bucks side, right? It's like, if you're going to have to get to know a woman, you're going to be not appealing to her alpha fuck side. You're not going to be the guy that she wants to jump on immediately. And with my wife, I was that guy for her when she met me as a bouncer in my when she was in her 20s, I was in my 30s. And that was what established the frame of the relationship. We hung out for a little while, a few weeks, maybe a month or so, and then I ended up, I guess you could say, I kind of played her, this and that, because I had other plates that I was spinning, and she was, she wasn't, for whatever reason, I didn't know enough then to realize that she was a perfect fit for me. And I don't think that, not a perfect fit, but like, she was a really good fit and complementing my lifestyle. I didn't know how to interpret women at that point either, as far as I just thought women who had genuine desire like she did for me were crazy BPD chicks like my ex-wife. I really confused genuine desire. I didn't know what genuine desire was, but my wife was one of those women that had it for me when she was in her mid to late 20s. And I was like, listen, I can't deal with you. All I knew was girls in their early 20s were all about just having fun. Girls in their late 20s all of a sudden got religious about things and had opinions. And I was just like, I was just messing with women in their early 20s at that point. And so where am I getting at here? Basically, Warren Farrell is giving what he thinks is good advice. And, based on the old way of doing things, that is good advice. It'd be like, yeah, get to know the woman before you get to know her. Get to know the woman before you get to know her and have sex with her. That's right. What a great idea. Where's that going to lead you today? Okay? Because she hasn't done that with anybody else, unless she's coming from a very limited background, which my wife has actually come to. My wife was your traditional woman today, but came from a very traditional background, which made her very, I would say, limited and exclusive. she wasn't. I had my own vetting process, and she passed it, and she, to this day, I'm so grateful for it, and her and her background and her family. She comes from mom and dad. Dad was like a traditional earner. Mom was a traditional mom, and she kind of bought into the Sex in the City thing, like all of them did. But she had her mom and dad to basically, look back on and be like, all right, this is what I really want out of life. So, that was part of my vetting process. Is and if my wife ever sees this, it's because we're soulmates, right? And you make sure you guys tell her that we're soulmates, and this is why this is working out. And if you ever see this, babe, I love you. I tremendously do love you. But, where am I getting at here? Had I not had that first go around where I was the bouncer and she was the party girl and she was out and we had that fun time, I'm not sure where we would be today. She might not be able to tell you that. Otherwise, nobody else would be able to tell you that. Otherwise, probably no mental health therapist or relationship therapist would tell you that was significant. But it was majorly significant that I was the hot bouncer she was into, and that was the establishment of our relationship. And I know this works today because I came into this relationship with my wife, and I make significantly less money than she does. Right? I'm still recovering from a BPD marriage married to formerly married to a woman that I've still been dealing with things. I have a son who's hitting his teenage years now. I still have multiple years paying child support. All right. And, I kind of, when I got zeroed out, in my late 20s, early 30s, it took me over a decade to recover from that. And now, really only over a year ago, it's June 2021, and I found the red pill last April of 2020 during the pandemic when I had time off and was watching YouTube videos. That's really when I started to excel and really started to be like, all right, I changed my mind. Now I got to change my situation. Now I got to change my body. I changed my body. I worked out. Now I've changed my career because I want to change my financial situation. And at some point, I don't want to just, shortcut my way into this red pill thing. I actually, I'm producing these fucking shitty ass YouTube videos because at some point these YouTube videos are not what is the best of what's going on in my life. This is a result of me. This is like a journal of what's going on in my life. And so, what I want to do ultimately is, live within this red pill community and provide something of value to it. And if I don't, I'll just go away peacefully. I guess that's the way it is. That's the way it is, especially online. If you don't provide anything of value, nobody's going to care. And especially amongst your haters, especially amongst your supporters, blah, 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 whatever. But, all right, so what am I, 13 minutes and 45 seconds in? Let me wrap this up. So, Warren Farrell had some good intentions. He goes, tell your kids to get to know the girl before you have sex with her. What I would say is, you need to be sexually experienced before you meet your wife. And then when you do meet your wife, who you might not know who she is, if you think she's some good girl, she might not be a good girl. Actually, might not be a such thing as a good girl. It's just women right now, right? It's like women who are optimizing on their hypergamous filter opportunities. I don't know what the hell you would call that, but like women today are just optimizing on whatever they can get. And you as a man, you need to know how to interact with multiple women and date non-exclusively, I would say. That's what I was doing when I met my wife. I was dating non-exclusively, and I had multiple women, and I even got to the point where I cut her off, and she kept tracking me 10 years, not 10 years, years later. And now 10 years later, what are we at? Year 2021? Yeah, almost 10 years later, we're married, happily married with a kid, living in a great place in the Pittsburgh area. And it's because I had, at that point, I had met her when I had an abundancy mindset. And I was not looking to date anyone exclusively. And, you know, it was that first impression that I put on my wife that still to this day keeps her here. And she's like, I'm not the beta seed guy, and I don't need to be, because she makes her own money. She makes much more money than I do. She has a family that has money. I don't have to be that. And so has been very freeing for me, and especially coming from being zeroed out and having lost all my money during a divorce settlement, especially when my ex-wife collaborated with Pittsburgh Theological Seminary and got herself a lawyer through the women's shelter. Act like you didn't, man. Act like you didn't. But you did. You did. You did, because you're all agents of gynocentrism. And I'm not. So anyway, the frame you set in a relationship at the beginning of the relationship will establish the tone and the future of that relationship. Let's see if I can get it up there. There it is. Come on. There it is. Truer words have never been spoken. Truer words have never been spoken. Okay? And I know this also, real quick, 17 minutes in, when my wife and I started dating again, I was still blue-pilled. I'm not even sure where I was with any of this blue-pilled alpha shit. This was coming back in 2016. I was following politics, and I was like, yeah, you know, this and that. And I was like, anyway, so I don't do politics anymore. I only care about the advancement of my kids and myself and my people that I love. Politics are way out of my control, so I don't even deal with it. But what was I saying? Yeah, so I just think that that I know I'm getting back to it. Got a brain freeze right here, but I know exactly what I was trying to say. I was falling back into my old blue-pilled ways, and I've had 4 LTRs in my life, and during all those LTRs, I fell into bad patterns because I just innately felt like shit during those LTRs. And that was the case even when I was with my now wife, who I had a great, the first impressions were really good. And then we got back together, later on, years later. And then I was like, all right, I got to figure out how to be in a relationship with her. And I would revert back to the old, I got to fall into the blue-pilled ways of, conforming to whatever she said, whatever society said. And I was starting to lose myself. And I was getting fat. I'm down in 60 seconds left. I'm only going to just tell you real quick. I don't want to make this over 20 minutes, but had I not, the COVID thing, I'm so blessed to have had that time off work and find the Red Pill community in Rollo Tomassi. Had I not had that, I might have kept going and slipping in that direction. But instead, what happened was I found a way, the tools to basically figure out a way to optimize my potential as a man, find myself as the, maintain frame as my own mental point of origin. I do now, and not only that I see myself as my own mental point of origin, but Like, I went and I changed my careers, and I've been doing things. I got myself in tremendous shape, and my marriage right now is a tremendous success. My relationship with my sons are tremendous, and I plan on keeping going, and I'm excited about that. So that's it, man. So yeah, Warren Farrell, I appreciate your idea about getting to know a woman before you're having sex. I don't think it's a good idea. I think you want to lay the wood. You want to establish those dopamine hits in her brain, especially her oxytocin hits, all that stuff like that. And that's the first part of where you want to go with how you're going to maintain that relationship moving forward. Because if you're waiting to have sex to figure out who she is, you're never going to learn, and you have not understood female nature as far as she needs you to be the guy, the fun sexual guy early on. And a lot of men today don't realize that. So, all right, that's it. That's my point. I'm not sure what I'm naming this video, but later.